I'm Tanya Curry, and this is this week's Acumen Media report. It's entitled The Ambassadors, Middle Fingers, and Passive-Aggressive South Africa. Hugo Ferreira, 37, pled guilty to raping and severely beating his 8-day-old daughter, who later died. He said he would give her something to cry about before he killed her. You would expect the world to stop. You'd expect South Africa to stop. Yet this was little reported in the media this week and will not even come close to Acumen Media's top 10. Instead, we are busy giving America the middle finger. I'm Tanya Curry, and I watched with gaping jaw as South Africa didn't pull a zap sign at America, it pulled 3, and they were all in 1 week. It turns out feral Cyril is quite passive-aggressive. Yes, that's the term. It would be funny if it wasn't so very scary. Well, it is still funny if you've got a sick, dark sense of humour that perhaps has been dredged from the gut of social media and news headlines. Humour that is so cynical that you can't tell a conspiracy from, well, a conspiracy. The most obvious zap was Ibrahim Rasool. The president said there should be no fuss or fanfare for fetching our ambassador, except, of course, the bust-in rent-a-crowd with ANC colours and keffiyehs. Look, I'm more pro-Palestinian than the next guy, but even I know that stint was orchestrated at OR Tambo. I wish we were actually that brave. I wish Ibrahim Rasool spoke for South Africa. He doesn't. He's just a pawn in a game of the reason. The middle finger in a retaliation that is worth a chuckle. America sent Brent Basul III, a known Zionist, with an Israeli flag pinned to all his social media profiles. Funny, right? Well, if it wasn't so serious, obviously. The battle of the ambassadors and middle fingers. There is speculation of who the replacement for Rasool should be. Now that he's been declared persona non grata by the USA, the DA has touted dinosaur, but generally good oak, Tony Leon. And there are murmurs in cadre corridors suggested that Lindiwe Medusa Sisulu should be our next candidate. That was so funny. Oh, come on, South Africa. It's Friday. Have a laugh. That's a serious middle finger, not just to Trump, is it? Then there was the attempt to rename Santon Drive to Leila Khalid Drive. Another middle finger. If successful, it would mean the American embassy's address would have to carry the freedom fighter and the US-named terrorist Khalid in every correspondence addressed to the embassy. Passive-aggressive much? And then Julius. You can always count on Malema. He went and sang that disgusting song on Human Rights Day, and just in case Elon didn't get the message, the first 500 times, that wasn't even the zap sign. The middle finger came out when Concord, the highest court in our land, told AfriForum again that this song was a struggle song and did not result in any subsequent deaths of farmers. We are still here, my dear South Africa. There are also cabinet meetings to table and discuss misinformation about the non-existent white genocide. We are told that the farmers have started to queue up to leave South Africa. That's if you believe the likes of Ritz and Creel. I don't buy it, but you might. No farmer is leaving his land in South Africa. If you show me one genuine application, I will be astonished. The one thing I know about the folk is that they love this country more than any of us. Look, I hate talking or writing about this subject. I always get hammered by my countrymen, but ask yourself some serious questions. Is the ANC really coming to take your house? Do you even own your house? Doesn't FNB own your house? Because that is the situation for most South Africans. And then, even if you don't own the land, and every last bit of it is taken and given to government, like, for example, here in Royal Zululand, where, yeah, you guessed it, none of us own the land. We're all on 99-year leases. I have paid for the privilege to live in this area, not just by putting my cash in, but also by uplifting the community in the region. And that happens to all of us here in this area. And guess what? It's paradise. Well, almost. I mean, you may say I'm romanticizing my country, but if you could be overlooking the sea, but the powers to be decided that the dune is there to be protected and no one may interfere with Mother Nature's law. So fair enough, even though I am romanticizing my country to a certain degree, you may be giving your country a hard time for nothing. Do you have to keep the ANC in check? Yes, absolutely you do, indeed. And we're doing just that. In a democratic way. Maybe slow and clunky, but we wade through it. Are there really 142 race-based laws against white people? Or are they the laws that tried to graduate from two separate sets of humans into one country? I do know this. Malema got real death threats this week. And from experience, I know they're real. No zaps necessary. There was a revolting post from Downrit insinuating that the death of the pilot that crashed the Impala jet in Saldanha Bay was because the pilot was a black diversity hire who was underqualified for the job. He wasn't, not that that matters. He was a highly decorated James O'Connell who plunged to his death, engulfed in flames, and Rutte used it to race bait. South Africa is embroiled in a race war that actually doesn't exist. Can't you see that they're playing with you? Cupcake told us via his weekly mailer to unite as a country and to fight disinformation. A mailer. Cute, eh? Do we still read them? They were a thing from lockdown, weren't they? That was 5 years ago? The trial of a year, and that's saying something when a story like Hugo Ferreira doesn't make the news. Jocelyn Smith trial has consumed my very, very late nights. Firstly, can we please make Judge Nathan Erasmus our president? Stat. I'm in love with this man. He takes zero zaps and even told the one translator that he doesn't appreciate his passive aggression. He is patient, but only to a degree, and he's a proper type A personality. If it's not being done efficiently, he'll do it himself.
Somebody thought it's appropriate to put the microphones the way they put it, but it's become an irritation to me, so I'm moving it to my side.
That goes for microphones that aren't working, for incompetent translators, bad paperwork, advocates that take too long or use too many words, and shaky witnesses.
One with an annexure, one pager to it, and then there was an additional affidavit.
No, I know you did, but I can only deal with matters when documents are handed up to me as exhibits. I haven't seen the docket.
You name it, Judge Erasmus is on it. He schooled Rens, the shaky state's witness. The effects of drugs came across on screen like a horrific documentary as we watched Laurentia Lombard and her testimony unfold and unravel. Every single day she was sick, had to be escorted off the podium in what looked like a series of panic attacks. She turned state witness, and with all the tic and mandrax in her brain, it is fried. If your question is longer than 10 words, Rens forgets what you said at the beginning. This left frustrated legal minds shaking their talking heads. It's down to the judge time and time again to reset the course to keep the painful testimony moving forward. The translators ranged from empathic and downright precious to completely incompetent and useless. It was so bad that even I could translate better, and ek kan not die taal gooi nie. That is terrifying. Imagine if this wasn't a high-profile case and a translator was really necessary, because, as we know, most of the nation speaks Afrikaans, even though Ernst and Cully will have you believe otherwise. Under cross-examination, Rens folded like an old deck chair under the weight of an elephant. The defense flipped the script and said it was actually Rens who was the mastermind in selling Jocelyn Smith to the Sangoma for money. Rens was out of her depth, and we also stopped believing her. To the point where the judge told her that if he didn't buy her testimony, after all the other evidence is done, she will be judged as complicit and she will go to jail.
that decision will only be made once I have evaluated all the evidence.
Dis net sal geneem dat nadat alle getuienis geëvalueer het.
Do you understand that?
Verstaan?
Ek verstaan, my
I
lord.
understand, my lord.
Do you have any questions?
Het jy enige vrae?
Nee, my lord.
No passive aggression here. Just facts, Chana. That's Judge Nathan Erasmus. The next witness is one of the key cops, another Lombard, but with this time with one A. He's brilliant. He translates himself. It's ridiculous. Anyway, he goes on to confirm most of what Renz had to say. The plot thickens, and I'll keep watching so you don't have to. But I do encourage you to see that judge in action because it will fix your patriotism. Let's wrap up South Africa as your weekend is calling. There were several horror stories. 26 trafficked Ethiopians were found barely clothed running down the streets of Lombardy East after escaping from a locked house. Zuma tried to escape himself from 29 million rands worth of legal bills. He didn't, but he did. You know what I mean. Then there was a major floor crossing from the ANC to the DA in the Western Cape.
Well, something extraordinary has just happened in Cape Town. It's caused a little bit of pandemonium behind me, but the leader of the opposition in Cape Town, the leader of the ANC in Cape Town, Councillor Banele Majingo, has just resigned his seat and has joined the DA. An extraordinary moment. I think
Steve Hofmeyer flopped and had to cancel his gig. No man, it wasn't at Spur. They tried to ban weed gummies for like 4 days. And then they were back again. Our country did what it does best, freeing the Zol and winning sports like a Trump landslide. Walaza sprinted to victory in South Africa's under-20 record as he knocked and clocked 9.99 seconds in Gauteng's North Provincial Championships. Prudence Segodiso had a spectacular performance and won gold in the 800-meter final in the World Athletics Indoor Championships in China. And then Bafana beat Benin by 2 goals to put them in a strong place to qualify for the World Cup, which is going to be hosted in America. Middle fingers.
Switched off and we're punished. Apollos with the ball in. Oh, it's a brilliant header.
Across the borders, Namibia has a new president and the USA have to get a visa to visit. Not sure that Namibia was high on the USA's bucket list, but okay. Zap signs are us. Heathrow was shut down because of a fire and the amount of grief that caused was like a small tsunami in London. While the Brits can whinge, if you believe it, 2 stranded astronauts were brought back to Earth seamlessly and without muscle atrophy and a pretty poor looped seascape on a background video. They could have tried harder, except they actually chucked in a set of dolphins that apparently were not scared of the steam and immense heat that should have coupled the pod's landing. America is a movie. See, now I have to talk about Musk and Trump. Can someone save me, please? So that Canada and Greenland thing, it's actually real. Even Putin issued words of warning that this is not a test. Putin himself had a bit of passive aggression as he left Trump on hold while he casually chatted to journalists, laughing that he had the Nazi waiting on the line.
Ну, на этом я хотел бы, Владимир Владимирович, поблагодарить вас. И учитывая, что, судя по заявлениям Дмитрия Сергеевича Пескова, у вас разговор должен до 18 часов состояться с Дональдом Трампом. Не знаю, насколько он...
Работа такая.
Ну, не знаю, сейчас надо посмотреть, что на эту фразу скажет Трамп. Может быть, он любит интервью давать, может, уже отреагирует.
Трампа не упоминал, я
Не-не-не, он...
Can we have a word about Trump's black marker pens too? Is it just me, or does the sound of him signing feel like nails on a chalkboard? It does, doesn't it? We have to address the Signal Group leaks where the war plans included a journalist from a B-grade magazine in error. The group included Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, National Secretary Advisor Waltz, Vice President Vance, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary General Scott Bessent, and little-known editor Jeffrey Goldberg from a magazine called The Atlantic. In the group, There was a set of instructions, coordinates, and other plans for the attack of the Yemeni Houthis. After a flurry of media activity, the Trump administration said that the group's contents weren't classified, and so Jeffrey went ahead and published all those screenshots. I think his media sales are probably up, even unlike Musk's Tesla cars, which are doing very badly because people in America are doing horrible things to Muscat's fleet. Labelled as domestic terrorism, the perps will be locked up and perhaps even sent to Guantanamo Bay, if you're to believe the headlines.
You consider this an act of domestic terrorism?
I think so.
Why?
I think that if and when they catch the people, and I hope they do, the good thing is they have a lot of cameras in those places, and they've caught some already having to do with that. I think that you will find out that they're paid by people that are very highly political on the left.
Meanwhile, it's because of Elon Musk. Everything he did.
While Elon was lamenting why he wasn't on the Signal group, he also showed his new talent, building fidgets with dining cutlery. I'm not making this up. Even Caroline Levitt, the press secretary, couldn't deal as she stepped backwards, away and slowly from the freak. I don't get why people actually like this chop. He's a chop, isn't he? Things got weirder in De Vitesse as we saw a mixed martial arts fighter, Conor McGregor, appeal to Trump to save the white man in Ireland. He also said he should be Prime Minister of Ireland. Guys, when does the candid cameraman pop up again? Just pull a middle finger, okay? Then KFC put out an ad that could only be described as a play on cannibalism. I've never wanted to buy fried chicken less in my life. What on earth is that all about? The place is madness. Sadly, George Foreman passed away. Imagine leaving a grill as your legacy. Look, stranger things have happened. Like, for example, the Egyptian lynx that found its way across the border and mauled Israeli soldiers. I don't make this stuff up. I read the news, so you don't have to. Then that takes us to my dear Gaza and the plight of the Palestinian people. No food, no aid, no water, no electricity, no fuel has entered Gaza for weeks. At least 500 more people are dead, and as we count the aftermath of destruction at Gaza, we learn that during the height of the war, at least 10 children lost 1 to 2 limbs a day. When you read or hear words like this, you have to give South Africa credit. Even if it's not for the right reasons, we are doing the right thing. At the Oscars, we saw a landmark event where No Other Land, a movie showcasing the plight of the Palestinians, won Best Documentary Feature. In the weeks that followed, we saw Hamdan Bilal, the director, kidnapped and beaten up by Israel. I expected nothing less. That wraps up the past week or so across South Africa. Ramadan is leaving and Eid is beckoning. I wish you peace and a healthy dose of patriotism. I'm Tonya Curry, and thank you for scratching the surface with me and Acumen Media.